Today, we're going to be talking about branding, okay? Creating a brand perspective. This is incredibly important for us as online entrepreneurs. The reason is because the world is just like completely packed full of entrepreneurs, okay? 20 years ago, it was sort of a novelty to be an entrepreneur. Well, today it's sort of a way of life. And it's not odd anymore. Sort of reminds me of like online dating, okay? So it used to be that like you never would tell anybody that you were online dating because it was just odd. It had a stigmatism or a stereotype that came with it. And so you would always hide the idea that you were online dating, so to speak. And but nowadays they tell me that 1 out of every 3 marriages originated from an online date. And they actually say it's more, but still people have that stigmatism. But they say that by the end of 2030, that 80 out of 100, listen to that, 80 out of 100 marriages will be formed because of online dating. And so being an entrepreneur is sort of similar. So it used to be odd. You didn't want to tell anybody, but now it's mainstream. And so because of that, our world is incredibly competitive. And the only thing that's going to help you stand out is a solid brand identity. Okay, now think about this. Okay, where did we get the term brand from? Okay, where we got the term brand from is back in the cowboy days when the cattle, when they would herd these cattle, it wasn't uncommon for many ranchers to have their cattle in the same lot or whatever, and the cowboys needed to be able to identify whose was theirs and whose wasn't immediately. So they would create this wrought iron brand, and they would stick it in the fire, and they would just literally sizzle it right on the butt of this cow, and it would put a mark on there, and very quickly it would allow their herd not to be confused with everybody else's, and it would stand out from the crowd. Well, that's exactly what branding does. What branding does is it allows you to not get lost in the crowd. And so I want to share a lot of my slides with you today. And I'm so glad that you guys are here. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the chat room. And do me a favor, because we're going to be talking about branding. Would you guys just take a moment and just share this? Would you do that for me? It would be such an honor and a privilege if you would just simply hit the share button, put it on your newsfeed, and let other folks who are thinking about launching a business, or they already have a business and it's fledgling and they're starting to get some ground, but maybe they're not or whatever. I would love to be able to share this with them. I think it's going to be cram-packed full of information today, practical tips and tricks that you can use and apply to your business. So if you would do me a favor, just simply just let me know that you share that, and then that would be great. Let me know. Let me know that. So hey, welcome everybody being here. I'm going to hopefully you can see my slides as soon as I put this on. Okay, I think that you can see that right now. It should be my face on one side and my slide deck on the other. I apologize if it's really small, but this is all brand new to me. I'm going to figure out the technology. But let's get going. So we're going to be talking today about creating a brand perspective, getting crystal clear on who you are so you can stand out in a crowded marketplace. Okay, we're going to create that brand that's going to sizzle on your backside, so to speak, so that when people come, you can stand out. Here's what you have to know. Branding is the fuel that propels you from pretender to contender. Okay. Have you ever been talking with somebody, and let's say that they're an online coach, or perhaps they're doing Facebook ads or something in the digital marketing world, and you can't find them online. They don't really have a name for their business. There's no logo or whatever. You just sort of categorize them in the mom and pop shop. And there's nothing wrong with mom and pop shop. Listen to me. There's nothing wrong with them, okay? But the problem with mom and pop shop in the digital marketing age is there are so many people who are just fly-by-nights. They come in and they make a bold statement, and that bold statement all of a sudden qualifies them to be an expert, and they just want to charge you a lot of money. But they don't have any branding. There's not a website to back them up. There's no claims. There's no testimonials or whatever. So a lot of times people will put them in what we call the pretender category. This is the category where nobody's really taking them serious, and you're not even taking yourself serious. You're not really sure that you're even going to make any money on this. Definitely not going to make a living do this. So much so that you're not even willing to invest back into yourself, into some sort of branding. And we put you over in the pretender category, but the contenders, the ones that you see sort of make it in this world, are the ones that have got a solid branding perspective. Okay. So they understand that branding is the fuel that propels them from pretender to contender. They're the ones that can charge more money. They're the ones that people take more seriously. And they're the ones who have a lot of instant credibility simply because of a brand. There was a study done. I should have put this on my PowerPoint, but there was a study done. I listened to branding expert Ray Perez. And Ray, at one of his conferences I was watching, he put an earring. It's very similar to this. He put an earring up on the stage like this. Now, this is my daughter's. And, he said, how much is this worth? Okay. And so he was given this sample. And the sample that he did in the audience was also a sample that a very large marketing firm did with tens of thousands of people literally all around the world. They just simply put an earring up and said, how much is this worth? Well, without putting any branding on it, the cumulative response was that was worth about $200. Okay. Now, his earring had like a little diamond on it. It was pretty cool. It was about $200. Then the very next slide was the exact earring, but it had a Walmart logo on it and said, how much is this worth? And it went all the way down to like $70 for value. Then the very next slide was the ones where it had the Tiffany logo on it. Okay. And so the ones who saw it with nothing on it said it was worth, let's say, $180. The ones who saw it with the Walmart said it was worth $80. And then the ones that saw with the Tiffany logo went all the way up and put like a value of $2,000 on it. Okay, it's just the power of brand. It's the same concept. It's the same item. Without branding, it sort of got in the middle. With not bad branding, but with what we associate as everyday, mediocre, the price value went way down. But with incredible branding, with an awesome brand on it, the value went way up. See, there is power in a brand because branding is the fuel that propels you from pretender to contender. And so I don't want you to take my coaching lightly today because it literally is what can allow you to charge incredibly more amounts of money with what you're doing as if you don't have a brand. Okay. So we want to propel you to the contender category, not the pretender category. Okay. So let's move on. So here's what you have to do. Okay, I put a bunch of points together for you, and you guys know I like some points sometimes. This is just the teacher in me. But here's the first one. First thing you have to do is you have to choose the style of your voice. Okay, the style of your voice. Now, if you were to Google this, this is actually what we call a branding archetype. Okay, ARCHETYPE, a branding archetype. Now, that's way too big of a word for me. I mean, I am a pretty educated guy, but hey, I have my master's degree. And I don't even know what an archetype is. I think it's like an architecture. I'm like, is that a building or whatever? So I just want to keep it simple. Okay. What's the style of your voice? Okay. Who do you go after? Now, if you were to Google branding archetype, you would find that branding experts have said there are 12 different types of archetypes that you can be. So in other words, when you come to the business world, you're going to be one of 12 types. Well, as we looked at that, and as I've studied that with my mastermind group, we basically boiled that down and said, you know what, those 12 types can really be boiled down to these three, and here they are. Okay, so the first one is what we call the go-to expert. Okay, now the guy that I study, his name is Michael Hyatt, and Michael Hyatt said he took these same three things, and he said this first one is what we call a sage, okay? A sage. Now, he uses like Gandalf from Lord of the Rings to be your example here. But basically what this is this is the go-to expert. Now, let's take it out of business just for a second, and let me tell you where I am a sage, okay? Where I am a sage, at least I used to be, I'm not any longer actually, but where I used to be a sage is in the world of sports. And so my sister Deborah, she used to always make these bets with her friends, and if it had anything to do with sports, this was way before the internet days, way before you could just ask Siri, she would literally pick up the phone and call me, and she would ask me an expert question about sports because I was the sage in her eyes. I was the go-to expert. If you needed an opinion on that particular topic, you were going to come to me. Well, that's what a go-to expert is. So if you are the go-to expert, if you are the sage, in your field, then you need to create an authoritative style of voice, okay? This is a wise person that shows up at the right time with expert advice. He's going to help you, or he or she is going to help you go further faster because you know exactly what you need to do to succeed. In the religious world, back when I was as a pastor, there was a guy by the name of Les Parrott. And Les was an old guy. I used to call him God. I mean, like literally, you know, maybe with the exception of like Morgan Freeman and, who's that other guy? The really big guy who plays on Coming to America with an incredible Earl Jones. Lloyd. Maybe besides those two guys, this guy was the voice of God, okay? But if I had any question about anything theologically or anything church related or anything ministry related or anything counseling related or anything, anything to do in the spiritual realm, I would go to Dr. Les Parrott. He was my go-to expert. And so because he was my go-to expert, he positioned himself in that particular field as the sage. And we knew that we would go to him because he would be able to get us further faster. He would save me, I didn't have to go to the library and research it because his word was rock solid. I didn't have to take any classes online. I didn't have to go to any Bible college. I could just go to Dr. Parrott and he was going to give me the advice. Well, if you are that person in your field, regardless of what industry you are, you need to establish yourself, and your voice, your brand needs to represent you being this authoritative, wise person. I think of someone like Amy Porterfield. Amy Porterfield, I bought a lot of online courses in my life, over $20-something thousand worth of online courses. The only online course that I've ever purchased that I consistently use even to this day on a regular basis is Amy Porterfield. Why? Because she's this go-to expert. If I want to know anything about Facebook ads, I immediately go to Amy Porterfield. If I want to know anything about a webinar, I go to Amy Porterfield. If I want to know anything about selling a product online, and I go to Amy Porterfield. So I invest in her Profit Lab. I've got her webinars that convert. I've got her courses that convert. Literally anything that she has put out, I have forked money down and I have purchased it, and I take her stuff and I look at it as rock solid. I abide by it 100% of the time. Why? Because she has established her voice in the industry as the go-to expert. There is power if you are the go-to expert. If you've done your research, you've got your credentials, you've got your expertise in the field, you establish yourself as the go-to expert. The second type of voice that you can have is what we call the tourist guide. Now, I lived in Chicago my junior and senior year in high school. And I don't know if you've ever been to Chicago or not, but it's one of my favorite cities in the entire world. The architecture is incredible. It's relatively clean for a massively large city. Lake Michigan is stunning. The buildings are huge. The food is like the best in the world. And the shopping is great. The people got attitude. Anything that you want in this world, you can get in Chicago. And so, did you hear what I just said? I said Chicago. See, that's even how they talk there, right? They've even got their own accent in Chicago. They got attitude. It's crazy. And so people would come to Chicago to visit me. And what I found was I found myself playing the role of tourist guide. Have you ever done this? Somebody comes into your town and you just got to put them in the car and you got to drive them everywhere. You have to show them everything, and sometimes that's interesting for them. And sometimes they're like, oh, dude, can we just please go get a hot dog, right? But I found myself playing the role of tourist guide. Now, what is tourist guide in branding? So what a tourist guide is, okay, this is what Michael Haidt calls the Sherpa, and there's some character in Lord of the Rings. If I watch Lord of the Rings, I would be able to tell you what the name of the guy is, but I don't watch it, so I can't tell you. But a Sherpa is this is the person who traveled ahead and can speak from experience. He sort of has been to the mountaintop, he's been successful, and he comes back to walk with us and to be our guide, okay? So this is the tourist guide. So we've been there, we've been successful, and now that we've been successful, we come back and do that. A guy that we just recently had on our show, a guy by the name of Akbar Sheikh. Akbar is a guy that I would say is the tourist guide. He's not really an expert. He's not. But what he is a tourist guide. He struggled. He figured some things out. He became he became good at what he did, and then he just comes back and says, "Hey, let me just show you what I did, and perhaps you can follow what I did, and then you can get similar results." Well, if that is you, then you've got to learn how to state that and use that to your advantage. You don't want to act all authoritative like you have all the answers if you're simply the tourist guide. Okay. The tourist guide simply says, hey, here's what I did. Here's the steps that I did, and you can be successful. Now, in the online digital marketing world, you can make a lot of money if you are a tourist guide, a ton of money. Why? Because we are really skeptical of experts. We're really skeptical of the gurus. We're really skeptical of these go-to guys. But if you are a Sherpa, or if you are a tourist guide and you've been there, you didn't really know how to get there, but you got there, and you can create a clear path on how you got there, and you got results, and you think you can help me get results, people are a lot more apt to follow that guy than they are the go-to expert. See, that's where I am. Okay, this is all brand new to me. Okay, this whole digital marketing world. Okay, this is all brand new to me, and I've had to learn this. I had to learn this process, but I was able to do it and learn it and get really good results. And I was able to create a process for it and create a system. And I'm very logical, and I was able to teach people, and I was able to use the skill that I have to teach people to help them get results. And so I can come back to you now as a tourist guide and say, hey, I've sort of been to the mountaintop, although I'm a fellow traveler. I'll talk to you about that in a moment. But hey, here's this process that I think if you do, you can be successful. So are you a tourist guide? Okay, that would be awesome. And then the third voice, and this is incredible, this is the struggler. This is where many of you are going to find yourself today. A struggler is a person who's got his ups and downs, and they walk alongside of you as a fellow struggler. They don't claim to be an expert. They don't even claim to be a tourist guide. What they claim is, listen, hey, I'm right there with you. I'm right there with you. I'm trying to figure out digital marketing just like you are. I'm trying to figure out how to create landing pages just like you are. I'm trying to figure out how to create Facebook ads just as you are. But I'm probably one step ahead of you. So why don't you lock arms with me, and we'll go through this process together. Now, that person has got the ability to gain a lot of clients, but they're not necessarily going to be able to make a lot of money off of those clients. See, a guru or a go-to expert, okay, or a sage as we call it, they can charge massive amounts of money, okay? I heard the other day, Russell Brunson. Now, some of you get mad at me because I charge about $7,000 to create a funnel, okay? And you guys, oh, that's outrageous, $7,000. Okay, Russell Brunson charges $1 million to create one funnel. No joke. He charges $1 million to create one funnel. $1 million flipping dollars. And in addition to the $1 million, you got to fly him and his team to your place. You got to take care of the hotel. You got to take care of the food. He's going to do a little consultation with you, and then he's going to, for $1 million, build you out a funnel. Why can he charge that? He can charge that because he is the go-to expert on funnels. Okay. Whereas a tourist guide, a guy like me, I can't charge that much money. But I can charge premium dollar because I've been to the mountain. I get great results. I've got some credentials. I've got some stripes on my sleeve. I've been noted as a top 30 ClickFunnels designer. I've got hundreds of testimonials. I've created, I don't know how many funnels, but hundreds of them, if not thousands of them. So I can charge a lot more money than, let's say, a struggler. A struggler is someone who is still figuring it out. So you can charge hundreds of dollars, whereas a tourist can charge thousands of dollars, whereas a guru can charge tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, or in Russell Brunson's case, millions of dollars. Okay, do you see the difference? But I want you to notice something. There's almost like a funnel right here. The go-to expert, okay, everyone would love to work with him, but very few people can afford him. And I'm saying him in the biblical stance that him also encompasses her, like it's mankind. Okay, so don't get upset because I'm saying him there. But the go-to expert can charge premium dollars, but has a much smaller audience who could ever afford him or her. Okay, so it's a little more difficult to get clients, but when they get a client, it can sustain them for a while. The tourist guide, a guy like me, a guy like Akbar, a guy like, a Dan Henry that we recently had, us, we can charge really good money. But there's multiple levels, okay? So a guy like Dan Henry, who, went from zero to $1 million in 5 months, okay, he can charge a lot more money than a guy like I can, who've gone from zero to several hundred thousand, because he's got the millions, right? You'd much rather get to millions than you would a couple hundred thousand, okay? And so there's different levels like that, okay? And so the tourist guide, though, has a lot more clients than the go-to expert does, and his clients probably have money to invest in themselves to take them to the next level. Or what they're going to attract is they're going to attract just a flat-out frustrated person that says, here, take my money, just get it, just do it for me. I'm tired of the headache. But the struggler, and I want you to listen to this, and I know I'm spending a lot of point on step one, and there's 6 steps. The reason why I'm spending so much time on this is you really need to understand who you are. See, because if you're a struggler, just admit it. Say, hey, I'm with you. The great news about the struggler is you can't demand the amount of money that the other 2 levels can, but you have so many more people who would work with you. Okay, let me give you an example. So a few weeks ago, I gave you guys a little tip that I have when I told you that if you can't afford me to build your funnels, you need to go out and hire a guy by the name of Ejasel Rahim. Okay, Ejasel Rahim. And I said, Ejasel will do an incredible job with you. He will do an incredible job for you, and he won't charge you a ton of money. Do you guys know that I only had like 30-something people on that day, and 15 people have hired him? 15 of my students of the 30-something that were on that day, so almost a 50% conversion rate, went out and hired him. Why? Because he's a struggler. He knows a little bit more than you. He's very gifted. He's good with integration. He knows a little bit more than you, but he's not a tourist guide. He's not a go-to expert. He's at the tip of the struggler. And because of that, his rates are really significantly low. And the vast majority of you clung on to him and said, okay, hey, that's worth a couple $100s to get an entire funnel built. He's probably better than I am. It'll save me tons of energy and tons of time. I'll pay it. Okay. And so out of the 30-something on, 50% of you went and hired him. Okay. Now I haven't got any referral fees, Ejasel. So hey, we need to talk a little bit. But that's actually not true. He does a ton of work for me, and he hardly charges me any money. He's incredible. But if you are a struggler, you can build a business around that, but you've got to be able to stylize that in your voice. You've got to be able to put that and figure out how to say that in your branding. Now, here's where you're going to make a mistake. If you are a struggler and you brand yourself as a tourist guide or as a guru, okay, there's a little passage of scripture that my mom quotes all the time that says, be sure your sins will find you out. Well, be sure that will find you out, okay? And what's going to happen is when somebody finds that out, they will label you as a fraud. And the internet is a very, very, very small place, and you will lose your, okay? It will go down quickly. So you've got to be authentic, okay? Say who you are, be honest about it, and I promise you that you will get clients. Okay, so let's move on. Okay, so that's the first one. So choose the style of your voice. So remember, we're talking about creating a brand perspective. We're trying to stand out from a noisy marketplace. Okay, number 2, you need to choose your value proposition and brand slogan. Choose your value proposition and brand slogan. Now, if you've stuck around my teaching for a while, you know that I'm pretty heavy on this, and so I'm not going to do a full teaching on this today, but I'll give you the overview, okay, for those of you who are new. Okay, what a value proposition is this is your unique identity in the marketplace. Okay, this literally is your brand. This is who you are. This is who you help. This is what you serve, or what your product is, and what the expected outcome is. I'll show you that in a minute. But I like to say that this is your 12-second elevator speech at any networking event that allows the person you talk to understand who you are, what you do, but allows them to qualify or disqualify themselves as a potential client. I can't tell you how many clients I've gotten because of my value proposition. When someone asks me what I do, I tell them, they're like, wow, I need that. And next thing you know, I've shaken their hand and I've signed a little agreement, and I've taken their money from their pocket and put it in my pocket, and I've been able to help them. Value proposition is incredibly important in your branding. So here's what it looks like, okay? So it's 4 parts. It's a little statement that you're going to create. The first part is your professional identity. So my name is Chad Thibodeaux, and I am a business strategist, I'm a business coach and launch strategist. Those are the 2 things that I do, okay? So I'm very clear. Here's what I don't say. What I don't say is, hi, my name is Chad Thibodeaux, and I'm the CEO and founder of Launch Fuel and Catapult Crew. Who cares? Who cares if I'm the CEO and founder of Catapult Crew, right? That doesn't help them at all. So that's all about me. So, but when I say that I'm a business coach and I'm a launch strategist, it allows my audience to say, I need one of those. Okay, I need one of those. Okay. Then the second part is I help. Okay, this is your target audience. This is sort of where the riches lie. This is the riches and the niches right here. And what you want to do is you want to be able to identify who your target audience is. You want to narrow that down. We're going to talk about it in just a moment. And so I have decided that my target audience is brand new online entrepreneurs. That's who I'm going after. I'm not going after the six-figure folks. I'm not going after the millionaires. I'm going after almost everyone who's going to be watching this. We'll have several hundred, if not thousands of people watch this training, okay? And the majority of them are people brand new to the online marketing world, or they've been in it for a while, but they haven't gotten a lot of results, okay? That's my target audience. So you got to be able to figure out who you help. Now, as we'll talk about in a minute, it doesn't do any good to be broad here. You want to be incredibly narrow. Then your unique solution, this is what you stand out. This is your product, okay? And this is what Dan Henry was saying the other day, that the majority of us don't even know what the heck we sell. So how in the world can we sell it if we don't know what we sell? So your unique solution is what you help people do or understand, okay? So with mine, I've decided that, I'm Launch Fuel, and what I want to do is I want to help you take your idea and turn it into a business, and your business into an online marketing machine. That's sort of where I am. And I specifically help newbies go from ideation to activation. So that's what I do. I help you launch a business. Simple form, I just help you take your idea and turn it into a business. Okay. I've done a little bit more. And now what I say is I teach people how to give all their stuff away and get paid for it. Okay. That's just sort of what I do. It's sort of my unique solution. It's what makes me different from everybody. Okay. And then what are the results and outcome? And so if you do one-on-one coaching with me, the very first thing I do for you is I show you the 8 outcomes that you're going to get when you're done with my coaching. Okay. And that is incredibly important, and you can't be generic with that. So, my name's Chad Thibodeaux. I'm a business coach and launch strategist, and I help people brand new into the online marketing world understand how to take their idea and turn it into the business, or help them give away all their stuff and get paid handsomely for it, so that they can. And this is where I like the powers of 3 here. And so you want to come up with 3 results if you can. Some people will say so they can 10x their business. Great. So they can find the freedom they've always wanted. Great. So they can leave their 9-to-5 job. Great. So they can live the laptop lifestyle. Whatever it is, you want to get crystal clear and spend time on your value proposition. The reason why it's number 2 on my list is because it's the second most important thing in branding. Okay. Now, once you get your value proposition, then you want to do what's called a brand slogan. What a brand slogan is it's your value to 1 5. Okay. So just do it. Okay. Burger King, your way, right away. Okay. McDonald's, I'm loving it. Okay. So it's a brand slogan. Okay. What a brand slogan is this is probably going to be on the header of your, your Facebook page, or the header of your webinar, or whatever, whatever your brand slogan is, you want to make sure that you put that. Okay, let's move on. Number 3, this one is not mine. This one I stole 100% of. And so I'm going to just give credit where credit is due. I needed something for this, and my mentor, Michael Hyatt, does this one better than anyone I know. And so so I stole this part right here specifically from him. So give him credit, okay? If you were in the Launch Fuel group, you're going to get a worksheet that'll be in the show notes of a little bit to help you guys. Thank you so much for all of your comments. I'm going to get to them in just a minute, so feel free to put your comments and your questions in. But let's get to the number 3. Let's talk about map your message, okay? Mapping your message is incredibly important for anything that you do, okay? And there's 9 powerful questions to inspire you to figure out what your message is, what your content is, that Michael Hyatt put together, that I want to share with you right now. Okay, here's what he says. He says, number 1, so these are the questions. Okay, what people or causes do you find yourself naturally drawn to? So you're trying to define your message. Remember, branding is not just about a logo, not just about a brand slogan, not just about a website, not just about fonts, not just about colors. Actually, branding has a lot to do with your message, okay? So your message is so important, and I'm going to leave this up because some of you guys are taking notes. Your message is so important that as you begin to write your content, it's got to fit within the constraints of what you're teaching, okay? It's got to be in the constraints of what you're trying to accomplish. So if I'm talking with a newbie about how to launch an online business, My content has got to be able to speak to them at that level. It wouldn't make any sense if I go out on here and talk with you about cryptocurrency to a newbie who's trying to launch a business. But why? Because if I start talking about cryptocurrency, it's going to remove them from my brand and move them on to something else. It's going to dilute them. And now they've got two options to think about. This is a huge mistake that many coaches make. You want to be able to format your message to a point that allows people to go on a journey with you. So to do that, you've got to understand exactly what your message is. So here's 9 questions. What people or causes do you find yourself naturally drawn to? Who are you most passionate about helping? What causes the people you want to serve the most pain and frustration? And you need to resonate and marinate on number 3 here, okay? If you don't know what kind of pain that your potential audience has, you can't create a solution for them. And if you don't have a solution, you don't have a business. So you have to understand pain, and then you got to come, as Dan Henry said, you got to come up with a problem, figure out what your solution is, and then package it in an offer, and you got a business. 4, what is the one thing you wish people knew that would demonstrably change their lives for the better? What's one thing that you wish they knew? Okay, and so for me, mine, and you hear me preach this all the time, is I wish people knew that it's easier to sell a $10,000 product than it is to sell a $97 product. I think it would change your life if you know, like I was just working with Candra, my partner, and I just put together a $24,000 product. Okay, I'm like, if I sold 10 of these a year, we'd all be happy. We'd all be happy. And what's interesting is it's easier for me to sell that $24,000 product than it is to get somebody to pay $29 a month to join my online coaching class. Okay. And I wish people knew that. I wish people knew that it is easier to sell high ticket than it is low ticket, because I think it would change their lives. So I teach that. Okay. Another thing that I teach here is I wish people understood the law of generosity. The law of generosity is that the more you give, the more you get. But if you give to get, you're not going to get. But if you give to give, you'll get. Let that marinate with you for a little bit. Okay, number 5. What comes easily to you that you take for granted, but that others find difficult? What comes easily to you that you take for granted, but that others find difficult? Okay, for me, it's ClickFunnels. Okay, ClickFunnels is really simple to me. Okay, a lot of people find it difficult. Creating a business plan comes incredibly easy to me, but many people find it difficult. Coming up with a message, a content message, it comes very easy to me, but most people find it difficult. So what comes easily to you that you take for granted, but that others find difficult? You got a message there. Number 6, what do you find yourself consistently explaining, teaching, or sharing with others without even trying? Okay, this is the thing that, like I always tell people, like, when you're talking with a stranger and you're finding camaraderie with him or her, what is your default? Where do you go? Like, what's your default conversation? Many of us have one. Okay, I talk about this stuff all day long. I talk about the fact that I am blessed to coach over 200 people in 32 countries and 6 continents. Okay, and what do I teach them? I teach them launch fuel. I'll teach them how to take an idea and turn it into a business. I love it. It just oozes out of me. When I was in the religious world, when I was a pastor, I talked about grace and hope. What oozed out of me was the fact that I never felt it was my position to judge anybody. Okay, when I was past church, I thought it was my job to inspire people and to give hope to people, and so that just sort of oozed out of me. I wrote a book called The 90-Day Turnaround, and I could tell people the 7 steps to take their business and go from drab to fab. It just was in me. Okay, so what's in me? What do you find yourself consistently explaining, teaching, or sharing with others without even trying? That's your message. Okay, number 7, how could your interest help the people you care about serving? Okay, you have great interests, okay, or values. How can that help the people you care about serving? Because in the end, businesses are all about serving people. They have a problem. You're going to serve them with a solution, and they're going to serve you by paying you money. And then you're going to ultimately get paid because you're going to find significance, okay? So how could your interest help the people you care about serving? Number 8, if you could help people in the way that you just described, how would their It's incredibly important. Just because it's different, and you have to know that. Just because it's different doesn't mean it's better. Okay? you can argue a different perspective, but it's not necessarily going to mean it's a better perspective. Okay, Dan Henry said this the other day, and it really resonated with me, that there's all kinds of people coming up with new shiny objects all the time. Okay, and it may be the solution for you, and it may be the solution for your business, but chances are the previous 10 would have worked as well. Okay, so just because it's different doesn't mean it's better. But how, okay, if you could help people in the way that you just described, how would their lives be different and better? You need to be able to identify how their lives will be better. This is what we call expected outcomes. If you can identify how their lives will be different or how their lives will be better, they will pay you. Why? Because they know how their lives are. Okay, they know that their lives suck right now. Okay, and they know that they want what you just described. And to them, the only thing standing in the way between what they've got and what they want is you. So they're willing to hire you to get what they want, but only if, number 8, if you can help them understand how their lives will be better. And then finally, what's at stake if you don't help people in the way you just described? You have to have consequences. What's at stake? And think about this, okay? I'm going to put my mentorship hat on here. Okay, what's at stake? For me, when I changed my business plan on August 15th, okay, many of you may not know this, I fired 9 of the 11 clients that I had. Okay, I got rid of an entire team that I had around August 15th. The reason was because there wasn't anything on the line for me. I was going through the motions and making money, and I had zero significance in what I did. I was doing something that I loved, or excuse me, I was doing something that I liked, but not something that I loved. I was doing something that I was talented at, but I wasn't doing something I was gifted at. There's a big difference. A talent is something that you learn. A gift is something that's already innately inside you. Okay. And so what was at stake with me, if I didn't change everything, was I was going to live another year of my life frustrated, aggravated, depressed. Okay. Grumpy. I was going to be a bad daddy. Okay. Why? Because I found zero fulfillment in what I did. None. Zero. Okay. And so what was at stake for me was literally my entire identity. And I was sacrificing my identity for money. And so what came to me with my message is if I don't get back helping people, like exactly what I'm doing now, if I don't create a platform where I can speak and I can share and I can put my arm around people and I can inspire them and give them hope and mentor them, if I don't do that, then what's at stake for me is Chad is at stake. I'm going to lose my identity. I'm going to go into a funk. I'm going to end up on medication. I'm never going to find a significant other. My dog's going to hate me because I'm going to scream at them all day, and my kids aren't going to ever want to be around with me. That's what was at stake to me. And so to me, it was worth changing my message and changing my method and even changing my business because I was at stake. But other things that were at stake were finances. Okay, I wasn't making any money. I was paying the bills, but barely. And I wasn't making any money. I'm like, man, I'm a pretty gifted guy. I'm a pretty talented guy. Okay. And I should be making way more money than what I'm making right now. But I was just going through the motions. I was sacrificing significance for security, or so I thought. And what was at stake with me was finances. So I had to make this change because of finances. Influence was at stake with me. Okay. I believe that leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. That's what John C. Maxwell says. Okay. And to me, I wanted a worldwide influence like I had when I was a pastor. When I was a pastor, I got to stand on stage and speak in front of hundreds, if not thousands of people every week. But I had my videos would be viewed by people literally all around the world. I love that. I like that. I felt like I was making a difference in Zimbabwe and Uganda and South Africa and Italy and Germany and wherever, because people could watch me online. And I like that. And I found myself losing that when I didn't have my preacher platform anymore. So I was like, I've got to be able to have influence. So what was on the stake for me was my worldwide influence. And little did I know that one little tweak in my message, one tweak in my business plan would not only give me a worldwide platform, but it would give me the largest worldwide platform I've ever had in less than 100 days. So what's at stake if you don't help people in the way you just described? See, this is all about branding. Okay, this is all about who you are. It's creating your branding perspective. Let's move on. Number 4, you have to narrow your audience drastically. Once again, if you have any questions or comments, please put them in at the end of my teaching today. I'm going to get to all of them, I promise you, okay? Narrow your audience drastically, okay? This is so important, okay? If you're talking with everyone, you'll end up talking to no one, Okay. If you think that you're widening your audience by selecting the everyone button, actually what you're doing is you're stretching yourself so thin. You're stretching your brand so thin. You're stretching your business so thin. You're stretching your marketing dollars so thin that like a rubber band, you're ultimately going to snap. Okay. So you got to find your niche. You got to focus on that niche. Okay. There's what a lot of marketers recommend is that you conduct some kind of survey on what people want and what's getting in their way. And then, and then figure out what kind of expertise you have around that. And your expertise plus their need creates a solution. And that solution is only going to be for a small amount of people. So only go after that amount of people. So I had to say that I'm not going after every entrepreneur, every mompreneur, every solopreneur. I used to say I'm going after speakers, coaches, consultants, pastors, and authors. I had to get rid of all of that and say, no, I'm going after the brand new person online. And then my branding had to reflect that. So I was called the Catapult Crew. Okay. That was my business word. It's called Catapult, where we help you launch your idea into a business, but it was too broad. And so that's when I lowered it down. I said, okay, I don't just want to launch them. I just want to be the fuel for their launch. That's it. I don't want to do everything for them. I just want to propel them. That's what I want to do. I want to help them take their idea and get it out to the world. So I changed the name of my business from Catapult to Launch Fuel. I changed my branding. Okay. I used a little rocket ship. Okay. And I put a circle around the rocket ship that represents, fuel. Okay. Like you've seen that, when you see fuel, you see this little haze around a rocket. That's so that little circle represents. Okay. But I had to narrow my audience drastically. Okay. 5. You need to not only create, but you need to invest in creative elements. Now, here's something that you have to know, okay? Simple is better. Simple is better. Simple is cheaper, okay? If you were going after what are creative elements, by the way? Let's just make sure, I don't want to assume that you know this, okay? What are creative elements? These are your colors, your fonts, your logo, and your overall style, okay? And so like with my colors, okay? My colors are orange and navy blue. Okay, so you'll see that. So you'll see navy blue in the background and you'll see orange, okay? And then white is my accent color, okay? So orange, navy blue, and white. That's my colors, okay? My font, okay, I use Montserrat, okay? That's just my font. That's what I like. You'll see my font on everything. You won't see me have Arial one day and Calibri one day and this one the other day. All you're going to ever see is you're going to see Montserrat, right? Because I like it. It's both masculine and feminine, okay? But it stands out. It's bold. I like it. Okay, my logo, you'll always see my little rocket. Why? Because I'm a launch fuel, right? So you're always going to see the rocket. Okay, that's part of my logo. And my overall style is I want to be clean, I want to be simple, I want to be neat, and then my little icons, okay, like I got right here, I always want to be pointing upward. Okay, because that's important to me. And that pointing upward, it has multiple meanings. Okay, for me, it has the meaning upward, like I want to help you in your business go upward. The second meaning that it has is it's got a religious meaning to it. Like, everything that I want to do, the scripture says everything you do all for the glory of God. So I want to have an upward meaning for that. But it's also got an integrous meaning. Like I always want to be on the up and up. Okay. And if I can't be, then I'm going to do everything I can to be. Okay. And so I hate it when people come against me and think that I'm not providing something that they want. And so those of you who have been there with me, you know that I will work my rear end off to make sure that at the end of the day, you'll always feel like you're getting what you paid for. I want to be on the up and up. So that meaning's got multiple meanings to me. Now, most of them are insider trading type terminology right there, but that's okay. It means something to me and it's part of my brand. So you'll see that, okay? I want everything going up. And so you'll see my launch fuel points upward. Everything is pointing upward, and that's got 3 meanings for me. And so that's my creative elements. You need to invest in that. Now, I am a great designer, okay? Everybody asks me all the time, oh, who created your logo? Wow, who did that? I'm like, I did, okay? But if you're not good, you don't need to say that, okay? I promise you don't need to say that. What you need to say is, oh, I invested a lot of money to get that logo, okay? And you need to hire somebody that's good, okay? Why? Because remember at the beginning of the day when we talked about the difference between a pretender and a contender is your branding, okay? Your logo, your brand slogan, your identity sets you apart, okay? And if your branding sucks, let me tell you, let me see if I can say this. Bad branding is worse than no branding. Okay, bad branding is worse than no branding. Okay, I have a funny story. So a couple years ago, my kid's mom and I, it was Mother's Day, and it was one of those things. And this was back when I was in the church world, and Mother's Day is a huge day for pastors. A huge day. It's like it's Christmas and Easter. There's Easter, there's Christmas, there's Mother's Day. That's the order. And so it was Mother's Day. We knew the place was going to be packed, and I think I was dedicating like 70 babies that day. It was nuts. And we had 3 services, maybe 4 services. I don't know how many. We had a ton of services. Actually, I'm sorry. I'm getting my story wrong. Actually, that day we only had 2 services. I got Easter and Mother's Day mixed up. But we were having 2 services. I was dedicating dozens of babies. And I had gotten to church at like 4 o'clock in the morning because I had all these certificates to sign, and I had all this work to do and had to make sure everything was right. And I totally spaced out about the mother that was in my life at the time. Okay, not my mom, but the mom of my kids. And so church is over, and we got to go someplace. Okay, and I'm like, crap. Like, it's Mother's Day. Like, there's nothing going to be available. I mean, it's like trying to get a last minute, restaurant on Valentine's Day. It's just not going to happen. I mean, everybody and their brother is taking their mom out to dinner. Like, oh my gosh. And so the only thing I knew was, I'm like, well, there's this old little restaurant that I used to go to when I was younger. It's called Pure de Orleans. It's right here in Mesa. And I remember them being really nice back then, but I don't ever remember there like being cars in the driveway or whatever. I bet we can get in there. So, so she asked me, oh, well, what are we doing for Mother's Day? And me, I acted like I got it figured out. I've got this great place that I'm going to take you to. You're going to love it. You're going to love it. Oh, really? What kind of food is it? Oh, it's Cajun food, Cajun seafood. You're going to love it. Okay. Well, what's funny is she didn't like seafood or she didn't like Cajun, but that was neither here nor there. And so I take my kids and I take her to this restaurant, and we pull in, and it looks pretty decent from the outside, but holy heck. Okay. We go into one entrance and both doors are locked. And we're like, there's cars in the parking lot. There's a big sign on the door that says they're open. So then we go to the other entrance and it's locked. So we walk around the back of the building and we finally find one of the 6 doors unlocked. And we go in, and the one thing I remember is right in the lobby, there were leaves all on the ground. There were like these value newspapers, like just stacked up everywhere, just sort of dungy and dingy. It didn't look like they were ready for us at all. And we walked in and we were like, holy heck. Like, there were a few people in there, but it was a ghost town. And one of the tables, like, it looked like it's where the manager did all of his work, right? He had a calculator, he had stacks and stacks of paper. It was just messy and dirty, and, had clothes like thrown over the back of the booth. And there was a purse there, and there was food on the ground, and we're looking, and so the host escorts us in, and we look, and there's shrimp. I have pictures of this. There's shrimp on the ground, like literally shrimp all on the ground. It looked like there was a baby there that had tossed macaroni and cheese everywhere, all on the floor. It was gross. And then they had, right in the middle of the restaurant, they had this big, gigantic tree right in the middle of the restaurant. And there was dirt and dust and everything coming off of that. And we're like, oh my gosh. But we're kind people, and we're like, we can't just get up and leave. Although now I'm not that kind. I would get up and leave right now. So we just suffered through it. And the kids' meals were like $8.99. Okay, and I got 3 kids, okay? So I'm like, dang it, man, that's $27 just for the kids. And so we ordered cheeseburgers and shrimp and whatever for the kids. And then I ordered gumbo, and she ordered, I don't know, something. And the food comes out. And so her food and my food came out, but our kids' food didn't come out. And you know what it's like. It's Sunday afternoon, 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Kids are cranky, blah, blah, blah. I'm telling you the story to tell you that bad branding is better than no brand, or no branding is better than bad branding. So this food comes out. It's completely delirious. Okay, the bill was like $90. None of us even touched our food. Okay, they wouldn't give us a refund. It was the most god-awful experience of my life. Okay, we now tell everyone. Like, I literally went on Facebook Live and said, for God's sake, don't go to this place. We did Yelp reviews, we did Facebook reviews, we did Google reviews, we did everything. And lo and behold, that restaurant that had been around for years, for 2 decades, finally closed their doors. Why? Because they had gotten so much bad publicity. Why? Because their branding was terrible. Okay? They said they were going to be one thing, okay, and it was awful, but they were another. And so bad branding is when your message and your imagery aren't married. That's bad branding. Or when your imagery looks like it was created by my 5-year-old son, that's bad branding, okay? Or when your imagery looks like you paid $5 on Fiverr to get something done, and that was their very first project, that's bad imagery, and it's not going to align with your message. So your imagery and your message have got to align, and you need to invest in that to make sure that they're married. But what happens is when your imagery and your message are married, it will propel you to new heights. Let's move on. 6. You need to be consistently consistent. This is the final teaching I got for you tonight. You need to be consistently consistent, okay? What makes your brand stand out is one thing that I learned this go round with my digital marketing business that I didn't learn last go round is the power of consistency. I will be on here every stinking Monday morning. I don't care if it's a holiday. I don't care if I'm sick. I don't care what. I will be on here every Monday morning providing incredible content, at least I think it's incredible, good content for you that you can use. Why? Because my brand is about consistency. You will always see my logo on everything. You'll always see my colors be the same every time. You'll always see my font. I will always do coaching. I will always do live interviews. I will always post on Facebook. I will always help. I will always do what I say I'm going to do because I want my brand to be known as I am consistently consistent, okay? So remember, just as the cattle ranch, back in the day, they marked somebody so they could stand out from the crowd. This is what consistency does for you. Consistency helps you stand out from the crowd. Why? Because most people have a podcast, but they just do it when they get around to it. But it's not really focused on their message. It's not really one way or another. It's just sort of there, okay? Some people do Facebook ads, but they don't really know what they do with Facebook ads. It's very inconsistent. They don't have a brand. They don't have a name. They don't have a logo. They don't really know what they do, and they're not always consistent. Some people have prices, but it's not consistent prices. Some days it's $1,000 to this person and $3,000 to that person and $4,000 to this person. Oh, I'll do this one for free. Consistent. Your brand has got to be consistent. So ask yourself, are you speaking the same way? Be consistent with your message. Make sure you're saying the same thing. Okay, or be consistent with your audience. Make sure you're talking to the same people. And if you do that, you're going to be able to create a recognizable brand. And the one that I think is going to be able to help you stand out with you. And I'll leave you with this. One of the largest mistakes that we make is we believe that we have to change our voice to what is resonating. So if Russell Brunson says something, we change our voice to mimic Russell Brunson. If Gary Vee says something, like I noticed that, there's a guy, one of my clients, he never ever swore before, but he watched Gary Vee, and Gary Vee blows the F-bomb all the time. So all of a sudden he started throwing the F-bomb. Like, why are you doing that? Well, Gary Vee does it. Well, Gary Vee is Gary Vee. Authenticity. Listen to me. You be you. You are what's unique to your business. So you be you. Don't remove the most unique proposition that you have in your business by trying to mimic someone else. You can mimic certain things, tools, resources, that type of thing. But at the end of the day, be true to yourself, be authentic, and that's the most consistent thing that you can do. So, hey, that's my teaching on creating a brand perspective. I hope it was helpful to you today. I sure do have a lot of fun doing these with you. So let's see if I can do what am I doing? I'm trying to do that. There we go. Okay, so hey, I will be happy to take some questions. I think I'm way over my time. That's okay. Kathy says, I can see you, Theo, from San Diego. Do you guys have any questions for me? Rochelle says, hey, I didn't know you could do slides on Facebook Live. Yeah, I didn't either. That's why I was late. And then I finally figured it out. And so I did it. Thank you guys for sharing. So many of you shared. Thanks, Chaz, for sharing. Thanks, Rochelle, for sharing. Hope this was helpful to you. Tara says rule of thirds, like in photography. No, what the rule of thirds is, so in photography, when you have a rule of thirds, it's actually the rule of nines, right? So you have 3 columns in photography and you have 3 rows in photography, making 9 blocks. That's what you call the rule of thirds. You have a third column and a third rows. That's not what I'm talking about. What a rule of third is so like if you ever watch a really good radio play-by-play guy. He says everything in threes. So, for instance, growing up, I watched a guy by the name of Bill Shonley with the Portland Trailblazers, and he would say, Porter to Drexler. Drexler dribbles down. Now to Duckworth. Duckworth 2 steps over to Buck Williams. Buck Williams with a shot. Rip City, baby. So he did everything in thirds. So he would say things like Porter to Drexler 3. Okay, Drexler dribble drives, 3. So a good play-by-play guy will learn how to say everything in thirds. And our society has been conditioned that there's power in 3. Okay, 4 is diluted, 3 is powerful. Okay, and so like so my catapult crew, it was create as you go, learn as you go, get paid as you go. So I have three things that we were trying to do. So in your value proposition, if you can come up with 3 outcomes, okay, then in my opinion, it will help you. You may only have 1 outcome, but if you can come up with 3 very distinct outcomes that's going to happen with them, it will help you. It will help you tremendously.